All Things Conceivable, a surrogacy podcast with Nazca Fontes.
Welcome back, listeners. I'm excited to chat with our guest today, Joseph Tito. Joseph is a Toronto-based film and TV director and producer, world traveler, and dad of twins. He's also the founder and blogger at the Dad Diaries, a journey to fatherhood, where he chronicles his life as a gay single dad raising twin girls. But what is so exciting about today's podcast, that it's so much more than just single dad embarking on surrogacy into the realm of parenthood. There are twists, there are turns, there's excitement, peaks and valleys. So without further ado, I'm so excited to invite our guest on this show. Joseph, welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you today. This is going to be a great session together. I really want to dive right in, if you don't mind, and just talk about your journey to fatherhood. And I'm going to just start by the big headline here, that you went from being a single jet-setting professional to being the dad of twins. So how has that decision to become a dad and now raising twin daughters changed your life?
How hasn't it changed my life, you mean? Yeah, well, I don't know. I always said to myself that by the time I'm 35, I wanted to be a dad. I didn't know how, what, where, when, any of that. But I kept saying that to myself. And then 35 came and went. And I was executive producing and directing all over the world and traveling. And so that window just passed. And then I was turning 37. And I said, okay, I don't want to be a 60-year-old with a toddler. In fact, I kind of wished I would have had them earlier just for the energy level, but that didn't happen. And so when I was 37, I looked into all my options. And as a gay single man at the time, there's really not that many options. Adoption was extremely difficult. So I looked into surrogacy. And that's kind of how my journey began.
Well, in reviewing your story, Joseph, I mean, there was one moment in time, right? I believe you said that you were laying in your bed in Dubai, of all places, right, in the world. And you had this moment where you just thought, there has to be more to life. Tell our listeners, share with us that moment of laying there, probably in the darkness, right? Or with the glow of the Dubai lights in the background.
The sun was about to rise. I was in like a 7-star hotel. It's just my life. Like, I was very fortunate, money was great. I was making great money and I had anything I wanted. I could travel wherever I wanted. I could buy whatever I wanted, but it seemed empty. Like, it just seemed empty and lonely. And I know that's probably not a good reason to have kids, but I just thought to myself, there has to be more than life than this. Like, you work your whole life to try to be successful and try doing what you love. And then when you do it and you get to a point, like I said, where it's just like, okay, and so that's when I realized, okay, like, now is the time. It's now or never. And at the time I did have a partner. And so I called my partner. I said, okay, I want kids. We've been together for 4 years and we're not getting any younger. And so let's start this.
And was your partner on board?
With his words, he was, but I don't know. As a gay man, it's really like, I mean, you have disposable income. You can pick up and go whenever you please. So to change that lifestyle to that, quote unquote, traditional family, he went along with it. And, I documented the whole journey and, I was going through it. And then again, I went through 5 embryo transfers. So it was a long, painful journey. And so as I was editing all my stuff, I realized that, I was doing it by myself.
Interesting. So somewhere along the line, this partnership became an individual journey. Is that right? And
there was never really any partnership in the journey. Like, I went, financially it was all me. And, when it was time to go to Kenya, I said, I'll pay for your trip, come with me. And he was like, no, I'm busy with work. I can't. And So just little things like that, that kind of, I was all alone, right? And then after
Mhm.
the third failed embryo transfer, I said to him, I said, listen, I don't think this is something you really want. I said, maybe we should, break up, and maybe I'll find someone that wants the same thing. And in my hopes, he would be like, no, I totally love you, and this is what I want. But he was like, no, you're probably right. And so not only was I dealing with a third failed embryo transfer, which really gets to you, then I dealt with that breakup as well. But I
So you
continued.
you wrote in your blogs on the Dad Diaries that a lot of gay men didn't understand your need, this
No.
drive, this desire to become a father. And certainly in the partnership or the relationship that you were in at the time, that proved to be the case as well, right? Like he
Yeah,
just didn't get it
my
either.
friends still don't. My friends still don't get it. Like, they're just like like I said, like why would you want having a kid is a lot of work. You put yourself aside, and for a long time you're living for someone else. And so, if you don't have to do that, then why would you do that? A lot of
And
people
so
think.
Sure, absolutely. Whether they're, single, gay, straight, married, that you're going to have this reaction. And so when you realize that your partner wasn't quite on board, you had a weird or, perhaps a little bit of an unsupportive reaction from some of your friends, did you manage to find or connect with folks that said, Joseph, I think what you're doing is fantastic. If this is what you want in life, we're here for you.
I have to say, my parents were my biggest supporters. My parents were absolutely amazing. I come from a very, very traditional Italian family. And so at first I just spoke to my mom about it. I spoke to her about adoption, and then when I wanted to go the surrogacy route, she was beyond excited. And I was kind of like keeping it, quiet from my dad. And one day I was in the Middle East and I called, and he came on the phone, and he was just so excited about the whole thing and so supportive. And that without my parents, honestly, like, and then even after the girls were born, my parents have been and still are great support. Without them, I don't know, because I'm like I said, like I went through 5 embryo transfers. So, you know, you go through the first one, and just the nerves, and you have the day of the transfer, and then you wait 20 days to see if she's pregnant, and those 20 days are like
The
hell.
eternity. Right, right. That's a better
and
way of putting
then
it. Hell, right.
and then all of a sudden, you get an email saying no, try again. And so then the second, and then the third. And so by the fourth, I was just like, maybe this isn't what I should be doing in my life. Maybe, God doesn't want me to be a dad. And then, I mean, you talked about my social media and stuff. Like I had a lot of people also on social media that were against, A, surrogacy, and B, a gay man going through it. So, all those things started taking a toll. And yeah.
So let's go back for a moment just to your parents, because the way you've described them as being traditional Italian, I would presume religious, for their son to not only be a gay man in the world, but to be a gay man pursuing family building via surrogacy. You mentioned to me just a moment ago that your mother got very excited. And then when you mentioned surrogacy, she was even more excited. So am I interpreting correctly that she was really keen on the idea of, genetic lineage with surrogacy as
Yes,
opposed to
for
the
sure.
adoption route?
For sure. I mean, she would. She would love the child or children no matter what. But I think the fact that I was passing along my genes, she was, to her. I mean, like I said, it's a very traditional Italian family, so family is everything to us, And
Right.
so the idea, I think once my mom was always amazing with, me, when I told her I was gay, and my dad not so much. But I think for them the biggest fear was that I would, be alone, and I would have nobody to share my life with and to support me. And so I think that decision to start a family, you know kind of put those fears away for them. And so I think that's why they were so supportive. Again, yes, my genes were passed down and they were excited about that. But I think just the part of, having a family for them
And
was important.
had you already decided that surrogacy was the route you were going to take when you shared this with them, or were they instrumental in making that choice between surrogacy or adoption?
Well, at first, kind of, I did my own research, and I talked to my mom a little bit about adoption and kind of seeing what my options were, and there was talks of with one of my best friends. She was like, I've totally, you know we'll hold the baby for you, we'll have the baby for you. And so then there was talks about that. And I don't know, they really didn't have a say in what I was gonna do. Like I said, they would have supported me no matter what.
So, in having a moment to review your video logs, which were just so great. You really rode the roller coaster of the process from the lows to the highs, and I just had to chuckle when you said in one of your videos, you really thought about this and you woke up, even though you had quote no clue about babies. I just love that, like the drive and desire was so overwhelming that you were going to figure this out come hell or high water, right? You were
Yeah.
just going to make sure that you built the family that you desired. And the motivation for starting your platform was because you searched and looked around and realized there weren't a lot of resources for gay men or single men out there. And you really
Yeah.
thought that, this was going to be something that would be so helpful to your community. Tell me more about that.
Well, I mean, yeah, when I was researching, first of all, there's a lot of countries where surrogacy as a gay man or gay couple is just not allowed. And then there's a lot of research on women that are, infertile and that, choose the surrogacy route, and agencies that talk about that. And I mean, even in Canada, they have the first IVF treatment is free. So again, there's a lot for females. And so I just found that, like, I didn't really have, like, all these fears and all these things that come up when you're dealing with it. There was really nothing there or nobody there that I could talk to, except for the agency I chose. But again, even that was an issue because for them it's a business, whereas you're dealing with life. So that's why I started. I started the Dad Diaries because well, I'm in film and television, so I'm like, I'm going to document this regardless. And also for my girls to see when they're 20 and they hate me, and when they're teenagers, I could be like, listen, this is what I went to
Sure.
have you. So, but yeah, and actually it's been amazing. I'm so glad I started it because I get numerous amounts of emails daily from men, mostly men, single men, gay men, kind of just asking questions. And, a lot of people just, like I said, want someone to be there for them. A lot of people will go through a different agency or a different country or a different this that I don't know because I haven't been through that specific process, but they just want someone to listen to them. And they just want someone to, tell them that it's going to be okay. It'll work out. That's why I started the Dad Diaries. And now it's become, yeah, just like my journey into fatherhood.
So you've touched upon something that's pretty unique to surrogacy, and from my vantage point, I like to paint this picture for folks who are new to surrogacy that there are, in general, right? It's a generality, but two sort of factions of participants as intended parents in the infertility/surrogacy journey. That is the conventional fertility patient that's gone through this long, arduous, rather difficult road to arrive at the juncture where they decide they're going to use a surrogate to build their family. And then, gay men, and they arrive at the choice of surrogacy so differently, right? Gay men are, because they've never been through that hardship of the fertility journey itself, and the pitfalls and the drawbacks and the setbacks, like the the fertility community has. So they always arrive so, they're bursting with enthusiasm and energy and excitement. But as your diary showcases, pretty soon some rough patches occur, right? I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
inevitable when you're dealing with a lot of, moving pieces and parts. And, what I found very helpful for, I'm sure, your listeners and for our listeners is that, when you thought about the process, you use these words like you think, you research, you think of again, you think of some more, you
Yeah.
research, and then, you used words like time,
Yeah.
money, waiting, and then finally helplessness.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me more about what contributed to that feeling of helplessness along the way.
Well, like I said, for each, after each transfer, you're waiting. And then if it's not successful, then you're waiting again for, to prep. Because in my case, I had a donor egg and a surrogate who was different. So then they have to prep the surrogate, and then you're waiting. And then, they again, an embryo transfer, and then you're waiting. And then the results weren't positive, and then you're waiting again. And it's just, and nothing is in your control. And that's one of the things that, I mean, I'm a control freak, but you really, really have to let go of everything and just kind of leave it in God's hands. Cause all you do, like in my part, all I had to do was, pick an egg and go to Kenya to deposit. And then literally for the next year, I just waited.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because you definitely, showcased for our listeners the trials and tribulations, 5 embryo transfers. That's a lot. That's a lot. So if you could, when you think about your entire journey, of course, like most folks who are successful, when I ask this question, what would you have changed? They say absolutely nothing because I have these beautiful children or my beautiful son or daughter. But certainly, it's always, we don't know what we don't know until we're on the other
Yeah.
side of the process. So if you could reflect on your journey, just maybe logistically, emotionally, financially, if you could change anything about the journey itself, what would it be?
Okay, well, granted, I would say everything you said that everyone says. I wouldn't change anything because I have my girls. But no, I would definitely change the agency I picked. I would probably do it in Canada. I would, I would definitely have changed the agency I chose, because I felt that, like I kind of touched upon it before, for them, it's a business. It's all about money. So yeah, I would probably say, and to anybody that is thinking about surrogacy, it's all about your agency. Really, they will make it easier or harder on you. I would have changed my agency for sure.
Sure. So it's really the caliber of professionalism, support, ability to navigate
And
circumstances.
and it's human connection, right? It's just
Right.
understanding that yes, you might have 20 intended parents under your belt that you're, trying to coordinate, but each one is different and each one is a person and not a client. And especially when you're talking about, birth, when you're talking about babies
Mhm.
and talking about, someone's dream, I just found it very, very cold.
So it also sounds too like, going so far across the globe for something that is so challenging and emotional and expensive and human. You wanting to pull it back closer would have been an ideal situation in
Well,
hindsight.
yeah, like I definitely, like, for example, my surrogate, I would have loved, to be close, to make sure, she was taking the right vitamins, to make sure she was eating healthy, to, again, being so far
Right. Did you
and not,
communicate with her at all? Was there
well,
a
that
language
that was
barrier?
another thing. So through my agency, we weren't allowed to, but I had a friend doing her doctorate in Kenya, and I actually had her go and meet her, and she got her number. So
You weren't allowed to communicate with her?
no,
That must have been a
they
challenge, because I think you mentioned in your diary that you didn't meet her until 10 days before birth?
10, yeah. So me and my mom went down to Kenya 10 days before they were born, and that's when I met her the first time, like
That
face to
must have been
face. But
so
again,
difficult.
I had her number, so thank God I had her number.
So that was a back channel. That was a back channel that you were lucky enough to get, right? Right.
Exactly.
Not everybody going to those lengths internationally would be able to get that back channel.
Yeah.
So I can see how, in hindsight, you'd say domestic, North America, agency choice. There's some things that you would have done differently.
Yeah.
But, like we mentioned, the outcome has been fantastic for you, right?
Yes.
I mean, tell us about your daughters. How have they changed your life? I want to hear more about that.
Oh, how have they changed my life? Well, like I said, I went from traveling every weekend to doing whatever I wanted to now waking up at 7 every day. Doesn't matter. Like, people are like, oh, it's the weekend. I'm like, great. It's the same thing. But no, I mean, it's just like my life's completely different. Like, it's calmer, even though they're terrible twos. They just entered the terrible twos, but it's just my life's different. It's calmer. It's more revolved around my family. Again, my parents live down the street. We're always together. And also just, holidays for me have really changed because before I have an older brother who has kids and my cousins were all married with kids and, there would be all these like families and kids around and then I'd be there by myself. And so now it's just, I feel, I don't know, more inclusive, if that's even like, if that makes sense. And then just, my friends are different now. The friends I had and my best friends that I had before kind of disappeared because they just don't get it. So my friends have changed, my family's changed, my family life's changed. And again, all to the better. Like, I just feel, even though I'm exhausted now, I mean, I would direct a TV show and be 18 hours a day on set for like a month and a half at a time, and I'd be okay. Now I'm just always exhausted. I never seem to like get enough sleep. Like last night I went to bed at 9 and I woke up at 7, which is like 10 hours, but I still need more sleep.
For sure. I know you're being told this, right? Like, cherish every moment, though. It goes by so fast.
Oh,
but when you're in the thick of it, it just seems like...
Yeah. When you're... Now I look back at when they were babies and I was like, oh my God, like, when you're in it, you're like, get me out of it. Like, I'm so done with this. Like, I need to just sleep. But now, now they're sleeping, knock on wood, through the night. And, things are, for me, when they started walking, changed my life. Like, before that, being single with 2 of them, people are like, oh no, you don't want them to walk. They're going to run everywhere. Like, for me, once they walked, I was like, thank God. It helped me a lot.
Right.
But yeah, but now, I mean, what were we talking about? How my life's... We're still talking about how my life's changed.
Well, right. I mean, I'm sure this whole podcast could be about how your life changed.
Changes
right?
with kids, yeah.
But I mean, can you imagine life without them, Joseph?
I can't.
Could you?
I can't. Now I have a partner, which that has helped a lot. But this last Friday, we said, okay, let's take one night. The girls slept at my mom's. I'm like, let's take one night so we can sleep and just wake up when we want. And I woke up still at the same time because after 2 years, your just body is up. But I just had this, I missed them so much. Like, it was crazy how much I actually missed them. And it was literally a day that I didn't see them. So the idea, or people are like, oh, would you change? Would you not have twins? Would you have one? Like, absolutely not. Like, yes, my life would be probably a lot easier with one, but I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine, both of them. They're just so different. And so, yeah, I couldn't imagine my life without them.
Well, you've been so open and so terrific with the community and your willingness to share with others your story. And you've even been awarded as a top YouTube channel for single dads, which honestly, I didn't even know that existed. So I
didn't know either until they said, hey, you've been voted. I'm like, great.
Exactly. And it's terrific. So why is it so important for you to be a voice in your community?
Just to be there, like I said, for people that just need someone to listen to them. there's people, like I said before, that there's not really much help out there. And so just to be able to be that person for someone that I didn't have, it just makes it worthwhile for me.
And do you have one or two particular lessons to share with single dads as an audience? There's lots of surrogacy challenges for all folks who participate, but what were the lessons that you learned that you have proven to be invaluable for others embarking on this journey that are single dads?
It takes a village, for sure. Get all the help you can. And I'm the type of person that, I can do it. I don't need help. I'll do it by myself. But no, just honestly, like I said before, you have to let go. Let go and trust the process. And if you're going through surrogacy, and I know it's hard, it's easier said than done, but you have to let go. You can't, there's really not much you can do. And so you just need to trust the process.
And trust your partners, your professional partners, I might add. I'm going to give a little plug here.
Yeah, exactly. There are, now, since then, I've met, 8 other agencies or other surrogates or other companies that will help you from A to Z that I didn't even know existed. So there is professional help out there for sure that you should get, because there's just, questions that that come up that you need someone to walk you through it.
Your Instagram, by the way, the Dad Diaries CA, is amazing. But as we all know, right, the trials and tribulations of parenthood has a seedy underbelly that's very messy sometimes.
Everything looks amazing on my Instagram.
So tell our listeners what doesn't make the gram.
Well, unfortunately, yeah. So Instagram. So I've since have become an influencer, and so my Instagram is very well. I mean, I'm very open and honest. So I'm one of those people that if it's awful, it's awful. The pictures on it seem beautiful and amazing, but the backstage and how to get, especially with toddlers, trying to get, I'll have companies say, "Oh, can you take a beautiful picture with the girls and you and the product and this and that? Can you do?" I'm like, okay, you clearly, marketing people, don't have children or toddlers for that matter. But yeah, it's what doesn't make the gram. Well, I can't swear on it. Even though a lot of the times I'm just like, oh.
Right.
But I mean, my channel is a parenting channel, so obviously I'm not gonna, talk about drugs and alcohol and things that are harmful to children and any of that stuff. But I'm pretty, I have to say, I'm pretty honest when it comes to, especially my Instagram. And, I have an agency and I only take on projects that I do believe in or products that I do use. I mean, social media, they talk about how authentic it needs to be, but it's clearly not. I'll have some companies that are like, "Oh, can you send us your pictures?" I'm like, "Well, can you send me the product so I can try it out?" But yet they want you to be authentic. It's like, well, I can't be authentic if I don't have the product.
So Joseph, throughout your journey, but particularly, leaving the surrogacy piece to the side, but when you think about your journey to parenthood, and since, the girls were delivered into your arms, what has been your aha moment?
I would say my aha moment was my parents being like, "Oh, okay." Now I get why just things that we don't think of when we don't have kids, that once we have kids and how hard things are. And when one of your kids falls and it hurts you more than it hurts them. And I just looked at my parents differently and just realized oh wow, okay, you guys went through a lot. I made you go through a lot.
Well, that was wonderful. Joseph, I can't thank you enough for your time today. And I hope our listeners tune in to your YouTube channel, A Single Man's Journey Through Surrogacy, The Dad Diaries, and also www.thedaddiaries.com.
Yes.
Joseph, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on and for helping people through this.
What a wonderful story to share today. Joseph, I think like so many folks that embark on a surrogacy journey, there are many lessons learned. And, there's so many takeaways for me today. I'm not quite sure where to start, but, it was really interesting to hear him say that he absolutely went to great lengths to have this family. A lot of soul searching, a lot of evaluation and research, and traveling halfway around the globe. And, for the things that Joseph would change, it would be to, have a heart with his professional partners in this process. I think it definitely is wise to choose partners that do have some, true business acumen and professionalism about them, but without the heart layered over the head. It really is a difficult process to engage with if you're not well supported. So I love that lesson learned from Joseph. And really what it boils down to ultimately is having a partner with shared values. And that's what's important in those who are embarking on the research portion of surrogacy. Really align yourself with a partner that you feel shares the values and the drive that you have in this process. And also, I can't help but muse over, the fact that Joseph has also become this accidental advocate. There are folks that have showcased their journey through surrogacy and into parenthood. And, I don't think that a lot of them ever anticipated that they would go to those lengths to share their journey, but it was through the difficulties and the hardships that they encountered along the way that they find themselves wanting to be a voice in their community to help others. And so that accidental advocate piece is strong in the fertility community and the LGBTQ family building community. So I really applaud Joseph for that. And finally, when I think about my aha moment, it is absolutely tied to his story about how he shared this with his family and his parents and how they provided him with unconditional support. And at the end of the day, we have this traditional Italian religious family that embraced their gay son's journey into parenthood through a very unconventional way. And we really do embrace the notion at ConceiveAbilities and beyond that family is everything. So thank you, listeners, for joining with me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Take care.
At ConceiveAbilities, we believe that everyone who wants to become a parent can. Our agency has helped build thousands of families for nearly 25 years. Whether you are an intended parent ready to fulfill your family destiny, a surrogate answering your calling, or an egg donor wanting to expand what's possible in your life, we are your people. See how matching matters. Learn more by joining our Surrogacy Learning Center community at surrogacylearningcenter.conceivabilities.com.